Excellent. All right, guys, this is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, day 5 of Oxford Fiber Festival, year 13. And this is part 2 of our online classes, lectures, workshops, behind the scene tours. We just finished with Miss Andy Bedsworth and her sewing tour, and we are getting ready to start our You Shouldn't Panic virtual vendor online behind the scenes 60 minutes interview. That's how I see myself right now. So we are so excited you're both here. You shouldn't panic. Thanks for being here. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Okay, so everyone wants to know, you don't have the word fiber in your name. Tell us who you are and why you're here.
Sure. So we're actually a 3D printing company. So we print objects on our 3D printers, both for consumer use to fix problems or to just look decorative or be something nice to sit around your house. And gosh, a little over a year ago, we found this file, this yarn bowl that holds your yarn, but it also looks like a ball of yarn. And I thought, wow, knitters would probably really like this. And so I printed one out for my wife and she liked it. And so we just decided to put them up at Etsy and see what would happen. And they just started selling. So now we're just trying to find other things that knitters would like. And then we can put them up on the store. And that's sort of how we got involved with knitting. My wife's a big knitter. And so she likes to use the yarn bowl. And she also has one of those little stitch row counter holders, a row counter, I should say. And so I made her and designed and printed something to hold the little clicker for the counting of the rows because it would fall over all the time. Anyway, so like I say, we started printing so many things for use by people who knit and crochet that we thought it might be interesting for the Fiber Festival to see some of the products and the things that we do.
Absolutely. Oh, they were popular. Okay. You say yarn bowl, but is it
Yes.
a bowl?
So it is a container really because it is fully enclosed. So unlike a normal bowl, it does not open at all. It actually has we have one right here. So my wife's showing it on her camera, but it's actually a fully enclosed object, and you can actually remove the lid to put your yarn in. You want me to do that? Or hold the camera?
Needs two hands.
Yeah. And so the lid twists off, and you can put your yarn inside. And then it's got magnets in the inside that kind of make it stay closed.
I love it. Okay, so yeah, tell me about, we see things sticking out of those balls. It's not just a yarn ball.
Yeah, so we originally made these with the needles sticking out of the top, and the needles are removable so that they can be customized for whatever color that you might like. But then we had requests for crochet needle. So we back in there, sorry. So we did one, we got one done with a crochet hook in the top. Unfortunately, it's not removable, but it does look really, really nice. And we do try to print them quite solidly. And then we even had a request for one with no needles at all. So we managed to get that going. We worked closely with another creator, and he actually customized that for us.
Love it. I love it. So I know when we were at market on Friday and Saturday, you had the yarn bowl balls. There was one of those, but there were also 2 smaller containers that were not yarn ball holders, yarn bowl balls. What were those ones?
So my wife tells me they're called Notions bowls. So that's what we called them on the website, but they resemble the yarn balls, but they're just now nice little containers. And of course we can get those in crochet hook or the knitting needle kind. These are again fixed and solid and not really customizable like the removable needles are, mostly because we had issues with the needles threading in, and it was causing poor customer satisfaction. And so we just decided to just not do those.
Awesome. Well, they were very popular at the front desk. So I guess our number one question that came to us as we were welcoming people in was, why weren't you guys at the festival? Tell us about how, if we are interested in your product, how this ordering process works, how like the print on demand idea.
Yeah, so we actually have a storefront. I actually have a couple of different storefronts, and our URL leads to our Etsy store. We also have a Shopify store, which I believe is what is in our program ad. Um, anyway, you can go to those places and you can order the items that are on the store. There are options for customizing the color. And then we also list notes in there, say, hey, let's just put a note in there if you'd like something different. We work with custom colors. We can get a lot of different colors if we don't have something that you like, or maybe a different kind of material that you like. We also take custom requests. So people will message us and say, hey, do you have this, but something a little different? The other thing that we can do also that we don't really focus on is custom printing. So if someone just has a need that's completely outside of something we offer on our store, or maybe even they have the actual digital file that is being printed, they could send that to us and then we could just print it as a service for them. It's really kind of, the world is unlimited as to what we can produce.
Awesome. Okay, so take me from, I see your yarn bowl balls at the Oxford Fiber Festival, and I want one. What do I do now? What does that process look like?
The best way to do that would be to go to our website, which is youshouldn'tpanic.com. And then that would take you to our storefront where you could browse all of the items that we have available. And of course, most prominently, the yarn bowl, because that's been our most popular item. And then once you're in the storefront, then you can choose the color of the bowl itself, as well as the color of the needles, or you can pick one of the other options with the crochet hook or the notions bowls, or various options there. But beyond that, you can message us directly within that storefront, or you could reach out to us at our youshouldn'tpanic@gmail.com to make custom requests.
Awesome. So what's your average turnaround time, and how long does it take? Because those yarn bowls are large. Like what's it look like on your end? So, okay, I've got an order. Now what?
It takes an average of 2.5 days from the beginning of the print process to getting it ready to box and send off. We usually ask for about 4 days, because a lot of times we have things, well, we're 5 days. Is it 5 days? 5. See, she's better at that part than I am. Because we get orders stacked up. And so if it's something else in the queue, we may not be able to get to yours the day that it's ordered. We do communicate very well. If we believe it's going to go outside of the ship time, then we make sure to let the person know that it's going to be a little bit late, or offer them an alternative. We had a real problem at Christmas this year with delivery of material. We ordered a material that I felt was adequate to meet our orders, but then it didn't deliver on time. And so we had to reach out to a couple of customers and say, we have this alternate material, or you can wait. And most people just wanted to wait, and they're okay with that. But we do try to stay in communication as much as possible to make sure that the customers are in the loop and they're not just sitting and waiting and not knowing and not understanding what's going wrong or what have you. And also, if they try to order something that we think is not going to come out well, because maybe they're not familiar with the print process and how it works, then we'll reach out to them and we'll explain, how the print process works, and then see if they want to do it an alternative way. And most of the time, even if they say to go ahead, if we print it and they don't like it, we'll just go ahead and print it the way that they want it, and make sure that they get what they want.
Awesome. I know nothing about the printing process. Like I genuinely believe there's some kind of sorcery happening over there. So could you, like, I see the printers behind you.
Yes.
Like, okay, so you've got an order in. I want a rainbow ball. What does that look like? Like from a behind the scenes, like the man behind the curtain. Show us what's happening back there.
Sure. So one of the first things that we start with is the material. So we've got a lot of this. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, when you got a big pile, but also, so this material is very similar to a self-striping yarn. And this is our rainbow material. And so it changes color as it goes along the material. I don't know how well that's showing up, but
yeah.
Anyway, so this material is for the rainbow balls. And so we would load this onto a printer, such as this one right here, that has the rainbow material loaded into it. And it comes down into the the print head of the printer where it gets melted and then fed out of the hot part of the printer. It's almost like like there's an old school printer called a plotter.
Yeah.
Let's see. Hallmark used to have Create-A-Card machines in the
Yes.
Walmart. Okay, so if you ever saw that machine work, it's drawing with a pen on one flat plane, and it goes and it moves around and it draws what it's trying to draw. That's exactly what the 3D printer does. It is a pen that is drawing whatever design that you're having it make. And then once it's finished the first layer, then it goes up to the next layer and it draws the next layer. And it's just drawing a layer at a time. So if you can imagine that yarn ball sliced into slices from the top all the way to the bottom, that's what the printer is doing. Is it prints those slices one at a time, one on top of another, until it has completed the print. And so we have this one here printing, and it's currently printing what's called infill. So it's not just air inside the gap in between the layers, and it's not solid either. It just puts some small amounts of film in the inside in a pattern to give it structure and rigidity, but also not make it be a giant solid piece of plastic.
So what is that one? What are we saying? Is this a baby yarn ball? A yarn ball being born?
Actually, yes, this is a full-sized yarn bowl, very similar to the we had on the table over here. And so it's printing the bottom part, and it started on the bottom layer, and it's maybe just I don't know, gosh, not very far at all, 1/4 of an inch up from the bottom. So it's got about another 18 hours to go.
Wow. Is it hot in there?
It is currently 74 degrees in here. It's not too bad. They are very sensitive to draft. We have that one that has the layer, where it was lifting off the bed. Yeah, kind of. You can see a gap there, but a draft, the printer is writing onto a hot metal surface, and that's what makes the plastic stick to it. And a draft of air can come in and can cool that surface enough to make the print lift away from the bed, and it'll actually warp it. And then we can't use it, and then we have to throw it away and start again. So I can't have any fans or any running air moving through here. I can't have air conditioner vent as long as the vents aren't blown straight at the printer. But yeah, it's a very sensitive environment from that perspective. So anyway, the other thing we run into too, by the way, is let's see this one, is power failures. So if the print is in the middle of the process and power failure, that's it, it's done. And so then you come back and you turn the printer back on and you clean it all off and you start again. There are settings that you can set to make it resume after a power failure, but then that hot piece is just sitting there melting a hole in it. So it's not worth anything when it's done. We also have problems with, I don't know if it's visible on this one. Yeah, kind of. I don't know if you can tell. This side is a little over the edge, and it's a little thin on this side. It's called a layer shift. That little robot arm that's moving around can lose its way in the middle of a print. And then now everything is printing slightly over from where it was printing. And so then, it's a scrap print stored away. So we do run into issues. I would say probably 95% of my prints are successful, but the elements come into effect and things happen. In fact, if you want to look at that one right there, it's another common failure. This print fell off the bed in the middle of the print. It just fell off. And so it just kept printing and then made spaghetti. And thankfully I saw it in time, so I stopped it. But I thought I'd leave it there so you guys could see what that kind of looks like.
I love it.
But if we receive something we'd never printed before, we have these prepared to print because we've printed so many of them. But if someone sends us something we never printed before, we have to take it through a process to make it work on the machines that we have in our environment. And that process is called slicing. And it's basically taking the 3D model and slicing it into those slices that we talked about so that the printer understands what it is it's supposed to do. It's just like getting a spreadsheet and printing it out on your printer, and you have to have a driver to do that so that it understands how to print it on your printer. The slicing software works the same way. Yeah, so Amy's got it right here. this is an example of a slicer. And after it's been sliced, I can come through and I can actually preview all of the slices and see how it's going to print. And I can even simulate the printing process itself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this printer is actually two different colors, as you can see. This printer is actually a special printer that has two print heads and can print two different materials at the same time. And so we actually have this print process going on over here, where we've got this print that we've sliced and now sent to the printer to print. So when it finishes with this print head, it will then move to the other one and print the blue color. And then when it's done, it switches back and forth.
I love it. I really love this type of interview and conversation, because I feel like in the Fiber Festival, one of the things that people like the most, and Michelle, you can agree with me readily, is that we get to meet the makers, right? You get to like see the people who dye the yarn or sew the clothes or do the quilting. We get to see that process, and it's really easy for people to say, this is handmade, somebody's hands made it. But it's also really easy for people to think like, I ordered it on the internet, magical fairies made it, and it just shows up at my house. But
Exactly.
but there's actual real life people and artists and thinkers and makers and creators, and somebody who tried something and failed, and then the power went out, and then whatever, like that's really important. And that's why I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to talk to you guys, to really talk about the people and the artists and the makers behind the thing, because it's really easy to just like hit order and it shows up in my mailbox, and that's it. Yeah, so tell me a little bit more about your name. How did you get the name You Shouldn't Panic?
So one of my favorite books of all time is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. And so don't panic is sort of a mantra. But don't panic was actually already in use when we were putting together our store name. And so we thought, you shouldn't panic. And so we felt like it was good advice, and it went along with my, Douglas Adams joy. So
I love it. And again, there's like a real person back there thinking of a name I'm into it. So I guess this question is for both of you. What is your favorite thing to make?
so far, I'd say the favorite thing we've made so far are the little the little lizards, this sort of MC Escher tessellating lizards. And we make this little box and we print the little lizards, and the people get to pick what colors that they want for the box and the lizard on the box. And I really enjoy all the different color combinations that people come up with. And it's just such a pretty little mosaic when we put it together. And so we have enormous fun playing with the ones that we print for other people before we take them apart and send them out. So that's probably one of our favorite things. But I really, really enjoy any of the things that we make that are print in place as well. We have these nice mechanisms that will print. And then you have these nice little fully made objects that print just like this on the bed with the gears and everything. And it just amazes me what the 3D printer is capable of. And that's probably what got me involved in this in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love it. Okay, so that heart, you're like screwing it closed.
Yes, it
I
actually
have
has
never
a
seen
threaded closure.
this item. Yeah, okay.
We just added it to the. We added to the store. We just added it to the store just a few days ago.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so I'm going to show everyone my favorite item that you had that I customized for me / my son. If anyone watching went to the Wednesday and Thursday talks with Mr. McDonald this week, my son was there, and he's my number one assistant. My number two assistant, of course, being my husband, who runs all my tech and makes all of that sorcery work for me. But our 8-year-old has been a super trooper. And so I had these custom tessellating cats made, and you guys were so amazing helping me pick out the grays, because I knew that was zoom in. Our son's cat. If you were with our festival last year, the day before the Fiber Festival, we found a kitten, and it was 12 degrees outside and my van had iced over and my son's like, we have to save the kitten. And so we saved the kitten while on the way to the festival, and it was very exciting. But this year he got his own another kitten, which is these little tessellating cats but there's a dark gray like Flea for McNougat, and then the light gray and the black and the orange and the white. So we put together this customized set for him of all the cats that he knows. And these, I love, my favorite part of these, not only are they like super personalized for him, but the texture. That was the number one thing that people commented on with the bowls and the balls at the front desk, was the texture of this 3D. They're like crisp. That's not the right word, but they're like smooth, they're sharp, but not pointy. I don't know. How would you describe this texture of 3D printing?
Yes, that's really interesting. So as we were discussing before, it's a lot of layers laid on, sandwiched on top of each other. And in fact, it's a very specific layer. It's a 0.2 millimeters. But so each one of these little layers sandwiched on top of each other forms, it's a smooth feel when you rub your finger across or along the layers. But if you rub them across the layers, then you can feel the rough texture of the layers themselves. And so it just all has to do with the way that it's printed. And it's very interesting. It's what they call, actually, they have a term for it. It's called fused filament fabrication, or fused deposition modeling. But it all is about what they call an additive manufacturing process. If you've ever heard of a CNC machine or any of those, like a silhouette machine or any of those other machines, those machines are more of they remove material in order to make something as opposed to adding material together. And so that's kind of the difference between 3D printing and CNC or machining or any of those type of, where you take a large material and you make it smaller, but you make it into what you want. I'm taking a raw material and then just adding it together and sticking it together until I get what I want. And so it's just kind of a different way of manufacturing something. But it's so unique, it allows you to make things that you cannot make any other way. It is absolutely not possible to make this material through any other normal manufacturing process because it has to be built by layers. I don't know if you can see this, but it is very, very finely linked, almost like a chainmail. And it's very, very smooth on top where the pattern fits together. Mm-hmm. But this printed in place, just flat on the bed, just like this. And the only way this material could be made is this way. So I have it's really what has thrilled me through this entire process is learning about things that you can make that it's just not possible to make any other way.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so I know you're obviously 3D printers. Do you make anything else, like in your lives?
Oh, well, my wife makes lots of things. So she is a knitter and crocheter. In fact, there's objects in this room that she's made. She made this wonderful scarf for me. I'm a Doctor Who fan, and so she made me a Tom Baker scarf as a Halloween present years and years ago. And then once it was used for a costume, it wasn't used again. And so then she took it some time ago and stitched it together and made a nice blanket out of it, which is just very warm. It's very lovely. But she makes all sorts of clever things. And yes, she made the sweater for our little mascot here, Rexy. Gives him a very Mr. Rogers kind of look, and we think it's really great. He's very happy about it. You can see it on his face. He's very excited about wearing his sweater. So she even made, one time my kids were really into Harry and Bella, which is a children's book about
I think I froze.
Chihuahuas for my kids, custom to look like the ones from the book. So anyway, so she's really the big maker. I like to tinker and build things and work on stuff. And every printer here pretty much has had a significant amount of work and upgrades and just a lot of tinkering and things to make it get working right. They don't just work right out of the box. You have to, well, actually, that's not true. Nowadays, you can spend a lot of money and you can get one that works right out of the box. But mostly, I have to build parts. And this is custom made. I made this part myself using a CAD program. And these are some that I just got online so that I can make the printer work like I want it to work, because sometimes out of the box it doesn't.
Basically, anything that's not black or silver is
Something I printed. Not this one though. That one's all. Yeah, this one though. The rest of these, yeah. Because out of the box, like I say, they don't always work the way that I need them to work to provide the quality that I need, or whatever. The one she's looking at right there, that's probably the printer that has printed the most yarn bowls of any printer that we have. It is printed steady for over a year. It has about 300 days of print time on it.
Oh, wow. That was my next question, was how long have you guys officially been You Shouldn't Panic, and how busy are you?
So December was a year that we've officially, well, I guess we started in October. Was it October?
Sometime last fall.
Yeah, a year ago in the fall. I got my first printer in August of 2020. And then we started doing the sales in the fall of 2021. And then it's just sort of snowballed from there. It was really, really a surprise to us how many orders that we got last Christmas. And it was, we only had one printer to print with when that started. So we've had to expand the number of printers that we have on hand just to keep up. And even then, sometimes we're still having to tell, sometimes we have a problem, or a printer, they have maintenance issues. I've had to replace 2 boards and printers already this year due to failures. Just they wear out, or various things happen. Just know it's a thing that runs really hot and has lots of moving parts. So it just suffers from issues. But it's a tinkerer's hobby, to be safe, for sure.
Yeah, and that was something that our speaker on Friday night really spoke to, because she does a lot of machine embroidery, and how anytime, and I guess it's for all artists or all makers of any kind, you're always kind of like fiddling with it, right? You're always thinking like, maybe I do it this way, or what if this happens, or I'll turn this fan on, it's so warm in here, and then something breaks, and okay, we're gonna stop the fan. It's never stagnant.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And I'm always finding something I feel like I could do better, or a way that something I could do a little differently. And so sometimes I have to stop myself and say, this printer works, and I need to let it continue to work as it is working. And I'll just play with this one over here that I don't need,
That's not printing anything.
Correct. Yeah.
What do you think okay, so you're a year old, roughly a year old. What's the biggest lesson you have learned? What has this taught you, either as a maker, or as a person, or as a team? How are you growing?
I tell you right now, the thing that I felt like we struggled with more than anything else in the very beginning was, how do we package these things so that they get where they are going, and they show up, and they're not falling apart, they're not broken, and all those things. And so we really struggled with how much packing material is required. And that's the other thing too, is that if you put too much packing material in there, then you've upped the cost of what it costs to ship them, and that makes it more expensive for the end user, and hassle, and all this. And plus it wastes material, people just throw them away. And so we were just trying really, really hard to find that happy medium. And so my wife, thankfully, she streamlined that. She figured out exactly the right size for this mini balls, and she looked at our orders and figured out what was the most common thing we shipped, and figured out what was right. And that made it a whole lot easier. So we can know, okay, well, if it's this order, we know to get this box size, and there's a process in which you put it all together. And then she custom makes boxes too, which that's a whole other story. But figuring out how to do all those things, it's not something we commonly ever did. Shipping and receiving is a job. I mean, and getting it right, and making sure, again, that it's not broken when it arrives, is very important to me. I would hate to be that person to receive something that's not working. And we have had a couple of things where something has gone wrong. And of course, I'm mortified. So I'm immediately like, sure, absolutely, we'll send you a replacement needle, or what happens. And that's what's happened probably more than anything else, is broken needles. And that's another thing we've had to refine the process. We changed the way that we printed. We made some portions of the needle a little more solid than they had been before, so that they could sustain damage and not cause, like they would break off and maybe get stuck in the ball itself. And so then there's threaded piece down in there that someone can't get out. And so we're just trying to minimize those kind of problems. And so, we just kind of modified the manufacturing process in order to mitigate some of those problems.
Has anything been easier than you thought?
The sales, to be quite honest, it really just still surprised us. And it still surprises us today where they come from. I mean, we can go into Etsy and we can look and see, or Shopify, and we can see where the links came through, but it's still a mystery to us, and how we would want to ramp that up. We're not sure. Right now, if we got 50 orders by Christmas or something like that, and that was, we were blowing and going. We were just constantly having to keep things running and keep things printing, and we could just keep up with that. So I don't know. It's interesting to see if we sell more things. I don't know what we're gonna do, and whether the business is gonna have to grow beyond where it is today. Because right now it's living in this room. But yeah, as far as the easy part, yeah, I was really surprised at how popular they were and how quickly they sold. I mean, I knew it was something somebody would like, but that really surprised me.
Awesome.
Apple Pay to ship to Canada. We've had requests
Yeah.
for other international shipping.
And that's such a big surprise to us. So
Do you ship internationally?
Canada only for now.
yeah, there's a lot of customs and duties and complications with shipping overseas, and thankfully that's fairly easy to do to Canada, but we haven't been brave enough to try that to the UK, I believe, is where we've had requests.
Yeah, that's
Maybe we just need to partner with a yarn store over there and they can just buy in bulk.
absolutely.
That was a new thing for
Oh,
us.
yeah.
Last November, December, we had a yarn store request a bulk order, a wholesale order. And so we worked out what our wholesale pricing would be and sent them a dozen of the big yarn bowls and a few smaller items.
That was my next question was, I know that generally your business model is on demand. Are you in any shops? Is there anywhere that people could go and see them?
So far, that's the only one.
Woolly Mammoth Yarn Store in Nebraska.
Yep.
Awesome.
They're very, very nice
Woolly
people.
Mammoth.
Woolly Mammoths, absolutely, super people. And we have talked with a couple of other stores about possibly offering the product. And so maybe that might move somewhere. Be nice. It would be easier, for people to be able to see our things. Because if you're just not browsing online, you're not seeing what we have. And but that would be definitely something we would like to see happen. If anyone's interested, give us a call.
I was going to say, because this is going out to all of our email list and all of our makers. So if there was a yarn shop or I don't know, like a yarn truck or somebody that wanted to contact you, what's the best way to get a hold of you? Or someone who has an idea, they want this printed or that printed. What's the best way to reach out to you?
I would say the easiest way to get to us right now would be our email address, which is youshouldn'tpanic@gmail.com, all spelled out. And you just email us there, and that comes to us, and we can take a look at the request and see if we can do anything we can to accommodate. That's how we were reached out to, I believe, about the yarn store that reached out to us already. And we just work with that person to try to solve whatever they want. If they're wanting to wholesale products, we can work on a price with them based on what it is they want to sell and how many they want to try to stock. But also, if they may have an idea, I don't even know if can we talk about the Emily store thing?
Yes, it's all
okay.
Wrong.
So what is it? What's the name of the Jim's
Luke's
Fibers. Jim's Luke's Fibers in Vicksburg.
Yeah.
They actually contacted us a couple of months ago and asked us to custom design a holder to hold their stitch markers that they send out in their monthly box, and they wanted to send the holder out in a monthly box. And so we emailed back and forth with them and texted and this, that, and the other, and worked out a design. And then we designed it, and then we printed 30 something of them in time for them to ship with their monthly boxes. And so that's certainly something we could do for anyone, as long as their design's not too complicated, or their needs are not just outrageous, obviously. But we'll work with anybody pretty much to come up with something to try to solve their problem. And that's one of the things that we like to do, is solve problems. And so that's what we did.
I love it. Okay, so we've definitely talked about the yarn balls. We've talked about the lizards. We've talked about the cats. What else? Just give us like a couple, like, are the boats still available? I feel like I saw boats at some point.
Oh yeah, so we early on in the process, when I started printing these little boats. They're actually called a benchy because they're a benchmark to test various things on the printer. But then after a while, I just decided to keep printing them for.
They're tiny. In my
They
head,
are,
I saw them
yes.
much larger. Okay.
And they're samples basically of each printer or each color that we offer, and various textures and things like that. And so we're always printing those every time we come up with a new color, try to get those added so people can see them.
So what else do you guys, I mean, we're all going to the website after this. Everyone's going to the website. But what else can we find there? What am I looking for?
So we've also got, do you have the stitch row counter holder thing?
You can just tell me. You don't have to have an example. But yeah. Oh yeah, these are new. I saw those. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going needle holders or just anything there. Correct. And then we've got these phone holders that we've printed out in this rainbow filament, as well as some of our other filaments with the dog and the cat here. Is this on the store now? Okay, so oh yeah, this will be added to the store soon. This is actually again, I told you I was a Doctor Who fan, so we printed this. It actually is a dice tower. If you're a big gamer, you can drop your dice in there, and they'll roll them for you. So anyway, that's another item that we're about to add. We just think is kind of cute and be fun to add. Oh yeah, I forgot about these. So we have our little door hangers. And we also have some with just the ball of yarn itself, and also one with a crochet hook. And little fidget spinners that are customizable. We have a little surprise twisty looks like a skein of yarn, but it actually is a container. And I think we sold our last one. I don't know if we have any handy.
That's okay.
So those are on the store as well. We sold a few of those around Christmas time. They're nice little, you could put money in there or or just whatever you'd want to put in there.
How big are those guys? That was a top contender for me, for my son.
They are smaller. They're smaller than what you would expect a skein to be. So they're a little bit smaller than that. Hopefully we've got one.
No, it's okay.
But I can say that they're about this big. I mean, I guess if you would compare it to the Notions bowl, the ball and the skein holder is probably significantly smaller than that. It's probably maybe a quarter of that size. That's the only. I guess we sort of had a negative comment. It was a negative comment, but somebody actually thought they were bigger than they were because they were imagining a skein. And they're a little bit smaller. I think we need to put something down for scale on our pictures. I may need to adjust that. But what's weird is the yarn bowls that we have, we get the opposite. Everyone gets them and they're very surprised at how large they are. And they're very, very big. I don't know how to scale size this thing, but how big it is. They're just very large. They're much larger than what someone expects a ball of yarn to be. And so when you see them compared to the Notions bowl, you can just see how large it is. And so everyone's surprised at how big they are. And so maybe we just need to do better in our scaling in our pictures.
I will say we had a couple of people come to the front desk and they wanted to see if their yarn cakes would fit into the ball part of it. Fit fine. They were very excited that like not only would their actual yarn ball fit in the ball, but their caked actually pulled up skeins would fit in there too. So that was I'd never
she means-
doubted you.
Okay. That's a term that's new on me, is cake. So I was glad that I made it struck that.
I never doubted you, but I did go and show them that all of their caked yarn would fit just fine. And they were super excited to see that.
Yeah, so Amy is showing
This
the,
is actually my little motion ball that was on the coffee table.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. So you make the actual holder for it, not the counter, but the holder.
yes, correct. Yep. And I actually custom designed that for her, and we decided people would like them. And so we put them in the store. They're pretty popular, actually. As long as you've got that brand of row counter holder anyway. Is it the Clover? Is that what that is? Yeah.
I personally don't count my rows. I just like to worry about it and like stress over it and, you know, like guesstimate and like have to count back. Like that's more my style personally.
I'm not sure how to design a holder for that.
Yeah. Or winging it.
Maybe you need one of these fidget wheels.
Yeah, or one of the dice where I just like throw the dice in. I'm like, oh, we're on.
Oh yeah, there you go. That's brilliant. There you go.
That's what we're doing today. Next year, we are considering making trading cards for our people at the Fiber Festival. So it'll have your picture on it and like your strengths and your weaknesses and, you know, whatever. And my weakness is going to be following directions because I just physically can't. And counting my anything, rows, stitches, just physically can't do it. So I was intrigued by the idea that people actually count their rows. That was new and exciting to me. Also, okay, so if there is one thing that people take away from today's chat, what do you hope they hear? We're gonna like highlight this. Listen to this part. What do you hope people know, learn, take away from today's discussion?
I think the one thing that I would hope someone would get out of this more than anything else is to understand how capable this process is and how customizable and available it is, so that if they had something in their mind that they have never thought that they could make, that they could reach out to us and maybe we can help them make it. It empowers creativity in a way that I have never experienced before. So that's what I think is very, very special about this entire process.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I think what I hope
doesn't necessarily have to be a creative thing that you're
correct.
It can
exactly.
be a problem-solving thing. For example,
we can't hear you.
one of our friends had an old refrigerator at their camping lodge, and one of the knobs, and it was so old they couldn't buy a replacement knob. So people told us to copy that and print out a knob.
It ended up being his father's favorite Christmas present that year. It edged out the shotgun that he had bought his father. He was very excited about the plastic knob that I made for him. So, and there's a lot of weird things like that we've done. We actually have some friends that have one of those little trash cans with the pedal on the bottom. You push your foot on it. Well, every time you hit it, it gets closer and closer to the wall until the thing is banging against the wall. And so she traced out on a piece of cardboard the shape of the trash can and the shape of the wall and brought it to me. And I designed it and printed it. And now she has this little plastic wedge that goes on the floor that keeps your trash can from hitting the wall. So it's just strange things like that people might say, hey, can you fix this? I'm like, sure, let's fix that. Let's see if we can fix it.
What a time to be alive.
No doubt.
Okay, so the thing that I hope people take away from this is that you guys are real life people behind this business, and you're answering the email. There's not some intern, some like third party email, like that you guys are back there and you're doing it and you're thinking it and you're making it and you're shipping it and you're finding the boxes. That's what I hope people take away from. So our last few minutes, we're going to play Would You Rather. I thought of some good ones. Not all of them are fiber related, but they are people related. So here we go. And you can disagree. That's between you guys. You guys are welcome to disagree. Yeah, here we go. So They're like either or. I guess it's not necessarily would you rather, it's either ors. Okay. Either or, cook or clean dishes.
Cook.
But you're both cook? Yeah, okay. Knit or crochet? You gotta pick.
Oh, I would probably crochet. It's got to be easier.
Yeah.
No, okay. Walk for a far distance or run for a short distance?
Walk for a far distance.
Start a project or finish a project?
Start.
Finishing is very satisfying, but we do tend to start more things than we finish.
Yeah, I was just being reality there.
We call that collecting hopes and dreams. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people collected a lot of hopes and dreams at the festival when they were buying, you know, skeins of projects they had no idea what to do with.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you should see my filament collection.
Those are just hopes and dreams. That's and no one can blame you for that. Maximize or minimize?
Minimize.
Both of you minimize, yeah. Freeze or sweat?
Sweat.
Sweat.
Yeah. Welcome to the South. Congratulations. Sweet or salty?
Ooh, salty.
Can I say both?
Yes, because I make the rules up for this discussion. Yes. Ice or no ice? Like in a drink.
No ice.
Yeah, no ice. I got Newt's sweet tea yesterday at the festival and got no ice. And everyone around me gasped like I was, you know, spitting in the tea or something. It's fine, guys. Here's your generational question. Top sheet or no top sheet? Like flat sheet?
Top sheet. Yes, flat sheet.
Yeah, science says it's cleaner and healthier too, by the way. Just
that's more comfortable.
Yeah. Last one is drive or fly?
Drive.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy stopping when I want to stop.
Because he drives and I knit.
But you drove to the festival, right?
Yes, I did.
He was busy printing stuff.
Yes.
Good.
And parenting.
Yeah.
Little of that.
Whatever.
Yeah, cat wrangling.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much for being here with us. Any final thoughts? Michelle, do you have any questions? You were joining us live. Do you have any questions, concerns, comments?
I don't, but I'm fascinated by what you're doing. My only experience with a 3D printer is in the library where I work, but I don't really I don't work with the printer myself. So it's been interesting to see the things that people bring in to print. You know, we have what we call a maker space.
Oh yeah, that's fantastic.
And I don't think they have any rainbow filament though. I'll have to ask. But there's a whole formula for how much to charge based on how much time it takes to print and how much filament it uses and whatever. But it's interesting because people are bringing us files to print. They're not asking us. They're not choosing from. We don't have our own catalog. You know what I mean? Right. So we've had some really diverse things, and then come through, and then we've also had a couple of efforts to make kind of marketing type of giveaways, you know, for people to just take, but you know, that's completely inefficient. I mean, like if you wanted 100 of something, you wouldn't 3D print 100, you know, you would like get them from, you know, because somewhere where you wouldn't have to wait for the Philip to go back and forth and back, you know. But yeah, probably my favorite thing that that someone gave me was this thing that holds your book open.
Oh yeah.
It's like
with your thumb with a little ring.
Yeah, it's like a ring. It's and I can't describe it, but it's like small.
It's sort of a wedge with a hole in it.
That's it. It's like a little wedge. And it kind of looks like a door
thumb
stop.
to wedge the. Yeah, exactly. Those are really neat.
It's like a it's like a doorstop that fits in your hand, and there's a hole for your thumb in it, and it's a way to hold a book open with one hand. So, well, anyway,
there are so many websites online that are available that have just thousands and thousands of print files that anyone can download for free. Printables.com is one of them. Thingiverse is also very popular. And
that's
so
the one I couldn't think of.
I suspect a lot of people are bringing these files in to print from those locations.
So do you
same
find
thing
yourself,
applies to us. I'm sorry.
do you find yourself shopping or, kind of browsing Thingiverse to see something that you could manipulate and customize and, or are you starting from scratch when you?
So that's actually a really good question. I'm glad you asked that. So everything that's available on Thingiverse or Printables or any of these websites, all are part of the Creative Commons license. And so a creator, when he puts his file up, he can license it based on how he would like that to be used. And so if someone has licensed it to not be commercial, then even if I modify it, I'm not allowed to sell it without the permission of the creator. And we are very, very respectful to creators. So we would never, ever sell anything that we would not have permission to sell. But there are a lot of items out there that are non-commercial, or I should say, I'm sorry, that are commercially available, that are open and can be edited or modified in any way. So there are a couple of things that we have modified at request. But the things that we sell in the store were either created by a creator and we are licensed to sell them, or like the row counter holder, I designed that myself from scratch.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we just had a printer. No, it didn't break. Oh, wasn't supposed to break. It's supposed to. This was a filament change. But hey, so we just had an example of how failures can happen, because my file is obviously not set up correctly for the filament change. It was supposed to pause and have me change the filament to a different color, and instead it's lost its mind. It thinks it's still printing. I'm gonna stop that. But hey, you guys got to see a live failure. But yes, that's what I was saying. So there's lots and lots of files that are available online, and anything that's available, someone could have us print it for them as we're printing as a service. Mm-hmm. So it is not something that we are selling on our store, but just like the makerspace, someone could communicate with us and say, hey, I have this file, will you print it for me? And then we have a formula that we calculate what it would cost to print that file as a printer for someone. And then we would send that quote back to them, and they can say, yes, I want you to print that. And we go through that process. So we can pretty much print anything out there that's available to print. If it's not even on our store, someone just has to send a request to us.
Got it.
I had forgotten that there's a 3D printer at the University Museum. I think there's also one at the public library. I'm like 90% sure in the teen.
Oh, maybe. Well, yeah, I haven't, not being a teen myself, I have not used that. The new teen room. But yeah, and I don't know about the museum, but it is the J.D. Williams Library has the makerspace, and so it has the 3D printer, it has the large format poster printer, which we get a lot of like research posters, especially now that we don't have Office Depot anymore or anywhere to really print that kind of stuff out. But then we also have a sewing machine that gets a lot of use, because
if it's ever out, the Fiber Festival now has 3 machines and a serger. They can come to me.
Well, we may need you to train the next student worker.
I will do it.
But yeah, I did get called down on like a Friday afternoon because they needed to change a bobbin and didn't know how, and the regular supervisor wasn't there. So I felt really lucky to be able to craft while I was at work. It never happens.
Well,
anyway,
thank you, Michelle. Hit me up. I can help. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Amy. And we're delighted that you guys are able to join us. We have a whole interview with you in this year's magazine, the You Shouldn't Panic, featured online. There's Rexy. This is a different sweater. Does Rexy have multiple sweaters?
Yes.
Busted. Dinosaur sweater knitter. Like he's knitting his own sweater. He's knitting his yellow sweater right there in that. We have a great interview with you here. We have this video that will be recorded and edited by someone that's not me, and it will go out to everyone after the festival. Thank you guys, all of you, for being here and for saying yes and for reaching out and for being involved and for making year 13 the best ever. We're gonna head out and move on. Thank you guys for being here. Bye.
Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Bye, Miss Michelle.